One of the things that I really like about what I do is that it gives me the opportunity to travel. And right now I'm sitting in California working for a super PAC to help with canvassing efforts and so on and so forth. So sometimes I do media, sometimes I'm consulting, sometimes I'm writing op-eds, and sometimes I'm doing digital media. So you never really know where the campaign life is going to take you. And right now I am in California in the desert, where it's hot, and it was like 100 degrees today. But since I have my step-by-step series that I wanted to make sure I got out, hopefully before election day, which that's obviously not going to happen, I thought it would be a good time to continue. So in the first video, we talked about whether you should run for office or not. In the second video, we talked a little bit about what are your true motivations, what does it look like to run for office. In step 3, we talked about understanding the political landscape, to figure out a game plan and understand what steps you need to take when you're going to run for office. Now in this step, what we're talking about here in step 4, it's all about making contact with the Republican Party. So going to approach the party for the first time, you've got to keep in mind that you've got different factions. One of them is going to be the MAGA people, and then you've got the classic conservatives. MAGA people have a different economic platform, and they have a very different agenda than your classic Republicans. And this has led to a lot of conflict in the party, why you have all these people that are never Trumpers and so forth. What you're going to deal with the local party is you're just going to be dealing with regular people, most of whom don't really have a lot of influence outside the party, and there's an exaggerated sense of their importance. So should you talk to them? Sure. But you're introducing yourself, you're letting them know that you're not running. You're certainly not asking for their permission, but you are hoping for their support, which they'll give you after the primary. But the local party chairman probably already has a list of candidates that he or she wants to put up for the next cycle, people who have been involved, people who are active, people who have been waiting. Our political chairmen have a lot going on. They've got, a county chairman has anywhere from 6 to 15 political candidates to field countywide, depending on the size, depending on the state you're in. Then you've got a series of smaller campaigns, township trustees, municipal campaigns. And so the average party chairman is already dealing with 30 races and 30 prima donna political candidates before you even get there. And so you want to have realistic expectations. And what you have to assess through your own personal research and through the last 3 steps we've discussed is whether these people have the resources to actually stop you. And also, do they have the resources and connections to really be of any help? It's kind of hit or miss. There's a lot of county parties where you have good people, where you can get 3 or 4 volunteers that'll really help. Sometimes they'll help you with fundraising, sometimes they'll help introduce you to people. But I found most of the time the party's help really isn't all that useful. It's really not. It's a little different for a statewide campaign. We have a strong Republican Party, like the Ohio Republican Party is probably a good example of that. They raise millions of dollars. They do their own direct mail. They can be very supportive, but other states may not be able to do as much. Rule number 1, whenever you approach the party, is you're just saying hi. If they can give you support, accept it. If they don't offer you support, don't be afraid of them, because they just don't have enough structure anymore, and they're so disorganized most of the time that their ability to really hurt you doesn't exist. So I've said a lot of negative about getting involved in the Republican Party, but for all the bad people you meet, there's a ton of good people you meet too. Really good people who are patriots and believe in our country and care about America, who have common sense and they just want to lead by it. And it's going to be a struggle, because differentiating between these people is always going to be hard, because you don't always know, because they're so good at being liars and being manipulative. It's hard to identify the people who genuinely care. There will be a few people who care about you winning your race, and those will be volunteers with the party who will be very excited about helping you out. You'll meet them, they'll like you, and then they'll be super thrilled at the opportunity to help you. And you're going to win that support sometimes, and that's really good. And that'll be the difference between winning and losing. Some of my earlier experiences with the party, just amazing. I show up, I'm still wet behind the ears. I go in and meet with the county chairman down in southeastern Ohio. I'm from Appalachia. And They just welcomed me in. They made me secretary of the party and tried to teach me the ropes, show me how things worked. And I think it worked so well because I didn't show up and say, "Hey, you guys have to elect me for something," right? And that's what most people who get involved tend to show up. They're political people. They want to be politicians. They don't know shit, and then they expect the party to elect them because of how charming and wonderful they've been for the last 5 minutes of that conversation. And then on top of that, you have to deal with the dynamics of them allocating resources to help the races that they know they can win versus the races that they don't think they can. Then they're going to help others because they've been with the party for a while and they don't want to abandon them. And so these are things you have to think about when you go in to meet with that party chairman for the first time. They're already juggling a bunch of candidates, and chances are they've already met with 5 other people who want to run for the seat you're running for. And so it creates a dynamic, and a lot of people get frustrated. But if you have this idea in mind that there's a party, it's been going on for 100 years before you got there, it'll go on 100 years after you're gone. There's already several other political candidates that they're trying to deal with and support and help. And that means that their resources are going to be limited. They can't give you the time and energy that you would really like from them, and their primary focus is going to be getting out the vote. Any county that is worth anything, who has a party that's worth anything, has leadership. They've got a line of people that hopefully are ready to go, and they are making sure that they're ready for that. When I was in Franklin County, when a candidate showed up and said, "Hey, I want to be state rep," right? They say, "Well, that's great, but the odds of you winning are relatively low, but we need somebody to run for this over here." Now, if the candidates were open to that and getting experience and learning a thing or two about how politics actually works and how to actually run for office, in the long run, things worked out well for them. They would eventually get them into that seat or into a seat where they could run and be competitive. But sometimes they wouldn't, and then they would get angry with the party. They would bitch and complain when they didn't win because the party didn't do anything for them. So when you approach the party, you're going to meet such good people who just care, and you don't see that anywhere else in life. A balance between the people who really care and the people who just want power. There's a balance, I think, that's really beautiful about the party. It's the only reason I still have faith in the country, because I think sometimes I speak 4 languages. I can just back up and go somewhere else. But I think about all those people who are still trying, who are still fighting, and who still care, and that keeps me going.